Hello and welcome to Twinsburg Public Library webinars. Today our topic is Introduction to Websites with WordPress. We will be talking about a few different concepts about WordPress in a slideshow, and then we will be moving out to the internet to do a quick demo. My name is Carrie. I am the Computer Services Manager for the Twinsburg Public Library. I am also the National Library Liaison for Sisters in Crime. And this webinar is for anyone who needs to start a website with WordPress. It doesn't matter if you're a writer, if you're a small business owner, just somebody who needs to get a website started. So what are our goals today? We will be explaining the basic concepts of WordPress. I am not a web designer, so I cannot get into code. I cannot get into development of WordPress. However, we will be able to show you how to set up a basic website and go over some of the basic concepts. We'll also be talking a little bit about web hosting so that you have an idea of what it is and how it works and how to understand it. Then, if you do want to go further, we will give you some resources for that, some resources to explore, to learn a little bit more about WordPress. And then, if there is interest, we may provide a more advanced class. However, again, my disclaimer, we are not developers, we are librarians, and all of this information has been taken from resources that are readily available to us as librarians. So what is WordPress? You might not know exactly what it is. You might have heard a little bit about it, but you haven't seen it in action. Chances are you've seen it in action and you don't realize it. It is a software system. It is either installed on the back end of your website, or it is hosted on WordPress.com, which we'll talk a little bit about the differences between WordPress software and WordPress.com. It is a content management system. So what is a content management system? It is a way for you to set up a website without knowing how to do code. So you can have your website, you can update it, you can type new text, you can have information about yourself, you can change the color scheme, but you do not have to know code in order to do that. That's what a content management system is. Other examples of a content management system would be Drupal or Joomla, other websites, depending on if you work with a web person, that would depend on what content management system a website uses. You can also use WordPress for a blog. A lot of people who start blogs go to WordPress.com and set it up. However, your website does not have to be a blog in order to use WordPress. You can have a blog element on your WordPress website. As I mentioned, you do not need to have code knowledge. However, you cannot be a beginner. You need to be able to email. You need to be able to browse the web. You need to know how to set up accounts. And you need to be able to navigate within the dashboard, which we will show you. 22.9% of websites are currently powered by WordPress. So again, chances are there are websites out there that you did not realize were part of WordPress. One more thing to note, even if you do work with a web designer or web developer, it's very good to know a little bit about the basics of WordPress, because if someone designs a website for you and you want to be able to update your own website that they created for you, then you'll be able to do that with this knowledge that we're giving you today. So let's talk a little bit about web hosting. What is web hosting? Think of the internet as a bunch of computers that all talk to each other. You have computers that use services, so a computer that I access the internet on, type in a username or a URL, and that computer contacts another computer called a server. That computer provides the services, and that's where your website needs to live. You cannot just have a website in a vacuum. You can create a website locally, but if it's not on a server, then no one will be able to see it. With web hosting, you need to have a domain name that you register and you pay for it yearly. And then you also have a hosting fee. So through web hosting, your website is living on a server through a service, usually like GoDaddy or Bluehost or HostGator. The hosting that you decide on depends on a number of different factors, and we don't cover that in this class, but if you're trying to decide, we can help point you to resources. There will be some resources at the end of the class, and you'll be able to contact us if you have more questions. You would not have to know anything about how to set up a server on the back end, but once you have paid for hosting, you will have access to your server through a program called cPanel or something similar that will allow you to install WordPress onto your website, and then you can use your own copy of WordPress. So we're going to talk next about the difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org. I know this is very confusing, so if you have questions, write them down and let me know, and we can go into it in more detail. So on WordPress.com, if you sign up with an account through WordPress.com, you don't have to worry about the web hosting. However, there are some limitations. WordPress.com is a commercial site. It's not an org. An org is self-hosted software, and the content is freely available. So both of these options are free with quotation marks, but there's catches in both sides. On WordPress.com, there is hosting options to make it even more confusing. You can purchase hosting through WordPress.com and create your own domain name, but it has tiered pricing. So if you start with the free option, you might be able to move up. However, the site will still be owned by WordPress.com, so you have some limitations still. It might show ads. You have restricted storage space, so you can't upload more than 3 gigabytes of media to your site without purchasing more space. And then because it's not open source, it's proprietary, you have limited themes and plugins that you can download to customize your site. Generally, too, you would also have WordPress in your domain name. So it would be carrie.wordpress.com rather than just carrie.com. WordPress.org, I talked a little bit about hosting already. You would need to download it to your server, but your storage restriction is then determined by your host website. You don't have to worry about ads. You can have your own domain name, and more themes and plugins are available. If you look at the bottom of this slide, you can see a resource that's available for WordPress information, and later on we're going to be giving some more WordPress information at the end. So if you want to read even more about this to your heart's content, you can do that there. Another option for WordPress.org is having someone set it up for you, but then once they've set it up, then you can go in and customize it yourself. So there's lots of options for getting your site set up. So here's a quick slide about setting up your site. As we mentioned, there are different steps that you have to follow. We are going to demo a setup through WordPress.com. So if you decide to go the WordPress.org site, you might need some extra help for that. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about concepts that are basic for WordPress. So regardless of either way you choose, we're going to go over those quickly, and then we'll go out to the demo so you can see what that looks like in the real world. A theme is something that determines what your site looks like. So the color scheme, the elements on the screen, where they're placed, generally the look and feel of the site. You can get a pre-made theme through WordPress, which will show you how that works. The nice thing about themes is that all of your content remains in WordPress, so you do not have to redo all the code anytime you want to change your website. So if you have a website that looks like it belongs in 2008 and you want to make changes to the theme, all you have to do is download a new one that looks more like 2014. You can purchase pre-developed themes if you don't like the free ones, or if you want something that's going to be different from what most people have. And also, web developers can create custom themes for you that you only have to purchase once, and then you'll own them. That'll be your theme. A couple words on posts and pages. So this is the difference between static content and dynamic content. Dynamic content is kind of like a blog. You have dated posts. They become archived when they're out of date, and they can appear on multiple pages. So you can have your own blog on a separate page. You can have your blog on your front page. You can post the same content in different places, link to it, things like that. A page is a static content which appears at all times, but you don't have to have your page be a front page. You can have links to your different pages. So for example, if your front page is a blog, but then you have your editing services page that they can click on at the top. This will be more clear when you see what the themes look like. Your front page does not have to be a blog. You could just have a static site. So if you're a writer, you just want the site to say, Joe, the writer, this is my site. You can do that. You can also update your pages depending on if you have a particular book coming out, or if you have two series. So you could say the Anna Falcon series and the Ladies Detective Agency series. They could be two separate ones. I realize that those are real series, or at least the second one is. So my apologies if I violated any copyright. I don't think so, though. I think I'm allowed to talk about the series without saying I own it. Other details. Widgets and plugins are different little programs that you can install on your WordPress site to customize it. So for example, if you want to have a social media widget, which we'll show you at the end, you can link your site to your Facebook page, and people who visit your site can just go directly out to Facebook. Plugins allow you to manage different things on your site. So for example, my podcast website has a plugin that will add a podcast directly to a post. So if I put in a link to my podcast, it will create a little media player, and people can click on the link and it goes right to a media player. They don't have to worry about downloading it or anything like that. They can stream it right from our website. On there is also managing comments. There is a plugin called Akismet, Akismet. That's really good to have on there because it helps you manage comments and it filters out the spam. So that's a good thing to have, and it's worth knowing about plugins so that you can really customize your site. We're not going to go into much detail on that today, but it's something that we might follow up with later on. Adding media, we're going to show just a quick example of adding media, and then tags and categories are two other ways that you can classify your posts. A tag is anything that's related to the post. So for example, you're writing my first novel. All your posts that are related to my first novel could be under tagged my first novel. With categories, it's more broad, so you could have tagged my first novel and categories books. So that way you can classify in two different ways. All right, so that's all the basic concepts. Now we're going to go out to the demo. So I'll pull up my Safari here. And here is WordPress.com. Now we have a pre-made WordPress that we are going to look at. If you wanted to start a new one, you would just click on, just type it in, what you want your blah blah.wordpress.com to be. You would click create website, and it will take you to this next page where you continue adding the information for a sample page. It's very quick. But since I've already done that, I'm going to go ahead and hit login. So anytime you log into your WordPress website, you can either go to the WordPress.com site, or even for those of you who are going to use hosted solutions, you can go to, and I'll type it up at the top so you can see. You're going to go to your website, what your name is, /WP admin. So for people like me who have multiple websites, it's easy for me to remember. So I always know I need to go to mywebsite.com/WP admin, and it's always the same. Now you have to keep track of your username and password as well, so make sure you put that in a secure place when you first sign up. So I'm going to type in my password. And it's going to take me to my dashboard for Chantel. So Chantel is our demo person in the computer lab. If you take a webinar with us, chances are you're going to see something from Chantel at some point in time. And when she logs in, she's got her dashboard. So you can see that on the left-hand side, this is where you're going to control everything that you do. So first, let's talk about themes. If you click on Appearance, and then you click on Themes. Now, when you first sign up for the site, it's going to prompt you to choose a theme. So when we started, we picked a theme for Chantel. Let's say we wanted to, right now she's got the sketch theme. Let's say we wanted to pick a different theme for her. Now you can see the ones that cost money, and then you can see the ones that are free. Right now she's on sketch. So let's see if we can find another free one for her to use. Let's use Eden. So we can hit activate. Now we have a new theme for her. Once you choose it, you can click customize, but I don't recommend doing this right away because you need some time to work on the theme and adding content. But you can change the colors, you can change the header, widgets, things like that. And if we have an advanced class, we will cover that in the advanced class. I definitely recommend you pick a theme and then work on posting pages, and then you can go forward with customizing it. You can always go back under Appearance and click on Customize. You can click on Menus, Background. There's lots of different possibilities. Underneath, you also have a section for users. So if you have somebody else that you want to manage your website, you can set up a username and password for them as well. So up at the top, we talked about posts and we talked about pages. If I click on posts and I look at all posts, we can see the post that Chantel has already put up. So she has a post from yesterday and then a post from earlier yesterday. If I wanted to create a new post, I just click on Add New. They now also have an improved posting experience. You can click on that if you want to. I prefer using the regular dashboard. So now we already have one post for her, so we're going to add another post. So I've typed in a subject for the post and then also some text for the post. Now I can add a bunch of different things here. I can add media, so I can add an image. I can add a poll, contact form, and then a location. I can change the text to bold. I can add a link. So if I highlight some text and then I click the insert edit link button, I can link it to an external website. You can also link it to different sub pages and posts within your own site. When I'm done with my post, I can click publish. And down at the bottom, which of course I can't, there it goes. You can add categories and tags as well. So if I want to use a new category, I'll just say books. Add new. Now it's checked. Same thing with tags. We want to get more specific with a tag, then we can say my first book. And hit add. So that's Chantel's post. When I'm ready, I can click publish. And when it's done, I can go back to Chantel's website up in the left-hand corner and see what it looks like. We created a tagline for her already. You can do that in your dashboard as well. And you can see she has an archives. She has some categories on the right-hand side. And she has a Facebook widget, which I'll show you how to add that. You can see it's pretty basic and it probably needs some help to be customized. So let's go back up to the top to Chantel's dashboard. And go through some of the other options here. We have our media library, where you can add images that can go in the posts. As you saw on the previous screen, Chantel already has an image in one of her posts. We can add more images if we want. You can click on Add New. Select a file. It'll tell us this is how much limit we're using. Here's an image. And now it's been uploaded. Then when I go to my posts, oops. See, I'm pretty sure it's already there. Then when I do a new post, I can click on Add Media and my picture will be there. I just click on it and click Insert into Post. And then I can type and continue to publish. And there are lots of different ways you can customize these posts as well. As you can see here, this is where the ad might be. So that's when we were talking about ads on WordPress.com. You always go back to your dashboard to go back to what you're doing. Here we have links. You can add links to your website, or you can add pages. If you click on all pages, those are your static content. We created Chantel's editing website yesterday. If I click on edit, and this applies to posts as well, you can edit the item. Chantel's editing website page has its own URL right here where it says permalink. So we could set that page to be the default page when you first see the website. So now I've set it to be the front page. Oops. This Mac always throws me off. Okay. So I hit update. And now Chantel's website looks different. You can see all the archives, categories, all those things are still at the bottom. So she's going to need to go through and update her theme a little bit so that it looks prettier. Back to our dashboard. I'll show you how we added our widgets. So if you go down to Appearance again, click on Widgets. Now the Akismet widget, that's the one I referred to earlier about spam. And on the right-hand side, you can see where the Facebook widget is. Why can't I see it? Well, for some reason I cannot see the Facebook widget. But when you click on it, you can add it and tell WordPress where you want it to go. So if I want it on front page 1, click on Add Widget. And now my Facebook like box will appear. So I can give it a title, direct it to the Facebook page that you have set up, give it a width and a height. So every widget has settings like this that you can update. And you can put it wherever you want on the site. So I can type in and then we'll say so that's the library website. You can tell it whether or not you want faces to show. Hit save. And then you've updated your widget. Let's say you wanted to add a Goodreads widget. You could do that too. On the left-hand side, it will show you all the different lovely widgets that you can add to your site. Now, if you change your theme, you might have to change your widgets around so that it looks good with your theme. And again, we're not going to go into that today, but if you click on themes and you click on customize, it will take you to the customize page, and you can play around with that and figure out how you want it to look. If you can't get your theme to look exactly how you want it, you can always go back to themes and choose a different theme. You're not going to lose your content. I think it's important to use your skills when you first get started on creating new posts, creating new pages, play around with inserting media, play around with categories and tags, moving things around, all these things that we've talked about already. You'll have this recording that you can refer back to, and I'm going to show you a couple of other resources that you can look at. So here's our resource sheet. If you go to, it's the last link on the bottom, tinyurl.com/ linda.com/TPL WordPress. There is this PowerPoint. It's slightly different because I added the tinyurl.com/TPL WordPress. But other than that, everything is in there. There's also a handout there for the WordPress class that we teach in the library. So we covered a lot of the things in the class, a couple of extra things, and then there's a couple of extra things in the worksheet for you to look at. WordPress.org has a lot of forums that you can look at if you have a specific question, especially about a widget or a plugin. And lynda.com is a website for a minimal subscription. You can sign up and get access to tutorials on a lot of different programs, and WordPress is one of them. So if you really want in-depth video training for a low cost, that's a good place to try. And you also get access to a bunch of other programs as well. So if there's other computer programs you need some help with, lynda.com is good for that. If you are an Ohio resident, you can get a card here at the Twinsburg Public Library. It doesn't matter where you live in Ohio, you just have to live in Ohio. You can get the top 3 books on this list freely available through the Safari Books online database. You can get them anytime, anywhere. You do not have to worry about them being checked out. They're always there. And these are some great books that go into WordPress. They're all fairly brand new. And again, through Twinsburg, they're freely available. If you don't live in Ohio, then you can check with your local public library and see if you can get access to these books that way. Many libraries, even if they don't have Safari, they have other ways to get you this information. And that is it. Thank you for being with us today. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me. I will be emailing this recording to those of you who asked for it. And if you don't have my email address, go to the Twinsburg Public Library website and you should be able to find it there.